work group actually conducted interviews, met with various organizations, and found that applicants, federal employees, and selecting officials expressed very similar concerns with regard to recruitment and hiring in the federal government. There was a portal that I began using more than a decade ago, that the USA Jobs website. It was a federally managed website, as well as other websites by federal employers, where you could use this portal to apply for jobs available within any department and entity within the United States, whether they were civilian jobs in military, etc. So this was a portal where all you had to do was enter your personal identifiable information, upload a resume, a cover letter, transcripts, and if you were deemed eligible for this position, you would have a general rating, where if you were hired or offered an opportunity, you would be hired in at that minimum base rating. And all federal employees or former employees know exactly what I'm talking about, military or non-military. This is where you would see your GS1 to as high as, I'm not sure what it is today, I'm going to say at least a GS10. And with those ratings, there is a formal pay table where there's a range. There's a minimum starting range, and then there's a maximum starting range for that. So this work group deemed this portal as user unfriendly and suggested that it needed improvement. I don't know why, after all the years it existed, but for some reason they did not find it equal for them or the desired group in reference to the studies, the research, and the findings presented by way of SPSS. So this is where I want you all to read on your own, gather some information, and understand that there are direct steps taken to create an environment where people do not have equal access to opportunities, not just at the federal level, but at the local level. When you have a government that's extracting a group and uplifting or propelling it in such a way that every member of the group has an opportunity to excel at the expense of people within their national walls at a rate that is unfavorable for an undesired group, you will have subsequent actions, tension, consequences, and thus all the factors and components that will encourage suffering, violence, clashes, and any other detrimental negative event or occurrence that you can think of. So I am going to end here by saying I will pick up with solutions tomorrow. Back to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. The Department of Labor produces an occupational outlook handbook. That's the solution to this, especially for African Americans or blacks, Asians, or U.S. citizens in general, because it appears that the government does not desire their people within this country who have contributed to the development and the longevity thereof. So the Occupational Outlook Handbook always addresses the leading professions in the adjacent fields of study. And right now, those are engineering, medicine, law, accounting, or a combination of the two. So that's where I'm going to focus on tomorrow. That's a solution to part of the problem, and how SPSS is used by federal governments, entities, organizations, individuals, businesses, nonprofits, for-profits, etc. They use it in a way that is more than manipulative, condescending, but beneficial to their agenda. And I always tell people, you can use SPSS in the same way. You can promote whatever study you have. Again, if it starts good, if it's reliable and valid, it will end well. But here you have examples of how SPSS is used by a government that does not begin well for everyone, and it's certainly not going to end well for everyone, especially when you have a targeted desired group versus an undesired group. But this is America, and these are their findings. Thank you. Have a great day. You all, I am presenting information that was obtained directly from the United States federal government sources. Particularly, this information focuses on opportunities in education, employment, health, research, and direct relationships between the Latino Hispanic populations and the federal government. SPSS has been used in ways by many people, entities, organizations, companies, and federal governments across the world to provide evidence for qualitative, quantitative, empirical, or in general research proposals. These proposals almost always involve variables, target populations, rather desired or undesired, and offer findings. These findings lend support to the hypotheses or to generalizations involving variables and people. All right. So this is a brief presentation on information, again, obtained from the United States federal government, entities therein, departments therein, and people who work on behalf of the government. This information concerns Latino Hispanics in relationship to other people present in the United States. So the Latino Hispanic information presented pertains to people who are foreign born and those who are non-U.S. born, documented, and those who are undocumented. Specifically, there is a study that I'm going to present to you that is titled the Latino Second Generation Study that spanned 2012 and 2013 that involved 1,050 U.S. born second generation Latinos of foreign born parents. So again, SPSS is at the core of this information because information was obtained, data was synthesized, and the findings were used and or reported in such a way to provide a basis for actions at the federal level that favored the Latino Hispanic populations currently in the United States. First, I will begin with Executive Order 14045, signed by current President Joseph R. Biden Jr., dated September 13th, 2021. It begins by Executive Order on White House Initiative on Advancing Educational Equity, Excellence, and Economic Opportunities for Hispanics. Within the first two paragraphs, you hear by the authority vested in me as President by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered as follows. Section 1, Policy. Nearly 14 million students in our nation's public elementary and secondary school system and nearly 4 million students in post-secondary education are Hispanic. Hispanic students constitute more than 27% of all pre-kindergarten through 12th grade students and nearly 20% of college students. The nation's future prosperity and global leadership across industries is therefore tied to the success of Hispanic and Latino students, and their success is a priority of my administration. Well, isn't that something? As if other groups are not responsible for the physical framework, development, and longevity of the United States. So, problem number one with that policy. From advancements in science and civil and labor rights to leadership in government, advocacy, entrepreneurship, and business, the Hispanic community has had a profound and positive impact on our schools, our communities, our economy, and our nation. that's where I'm gonna stop, because I would like to know what data obtained leans 100% support to this statement presented and thus signed by current President Joseph R. Biden Jr. of the United States of America. So I provided a link for Executive Order 14045 dated September 13, 2021. I have an image of the actual order. It ends with general provisions. I'm going to conclude with some solutions to the rest of this information that I am going to present to you. So, by the Social Work Research Network, made available by BU, which is Boston University, this data set is available for the Latino second generation study between 2012 and 2013. The goal of the project was to advance scholarly understanding of political socialization and of the long-term effects of the United States immigration system on citizen, civic, and political participation in the United States. Additional variables include behavior and attitudes, family and immigration history, and demographic background. Okay, so the data set is very important. Again, back to SPSS. This is the type of information that is used rather nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio data. This is the information that's used in the core feasibility studies to test, basically. This data is synthesized that lends supports to findings. These findings are often presented in tables, figures, other formats to show relationships between variables, rather within group or across groups. And in this case, a lot of this information that I gathered, of course, is within the group, but I'm also going to show you disparaging information from across groups that show declining trends in the availability of resources in education, in research, in science, in healthcare, housing, etc. is all related. When you're talking about uplifting a group over another group, meaning you have a desired group versus an undesired group, and the limitation of resources, thus a decline in flow of essentials to live a sustainable life. So here I'm bringing you to the National Science Foundation. Not long ago, the National Science Foundation also took an advert step to announce opportunities for Hispanic serving institutions that supported research and capacity building through collaborations and partnerships. Okay, this type of direct expression began with more than $39 million in public funds made available to improving undergraduate STEM education opportunities just for Hispanic serving institutions, also known as the HSI program. Through this new solicitation, the National Science Foundation introduced their HSI program network resource centers and hubs, or the HSI Net, which sought to establish 2 centers and up to 5 hubs to develop the infrastructure needed to generate and disseminate new knowledge, successful practices, and effective design principles arising from research on and work at HSIs. Okay, this article is still available online. It's dated June 22nd, 2022. There's a photo, there's a link provided for you to read it on your own, which I hope you do. Fast forward. I have also made available a link from the United States Bureau of Labor and Statistics. This information is presented from employed persons by industry across demographics, but mainly they want you to look at the relationship between jobs available and held by Latinos,